The integration of your ambition and drive with your ability to enjoy your life is the ultimate outcome when you recover from burnout. So you don't have to, just rest and never do anything else and that's it and give up all your dreams and passions. And you also don't have to run yourself into the ground either. So when you bring all of this together and you integrate it, that is really where you want to be. So in today's video, this is part 3 of the 10 stages of burnout. So that's what we're talking about today. So if this is of interest to you, be sure to comment, like, share, subscribe this video. If it's of interest, if you know someone that this topic around the stages of burnout would be helpful for, please be sure to share it with them. Hi, I'm Trina Parham. I'm a leadership coach. And I help women leaders to recover from burnout, reconnect to their joy, and to work and make an impact in the world in a way that's sustainable. And I do this by sharing practical tools, tips, and strategies around work and recovering from burnout and how to get through that process. And I also share more holistic tools like breath work and meditation. And every now and again, I use oracle cards and tarot cards. So if you're into that sort of thing, you're in the right place. And I am so glad that you're here. So as I said, we're talking about the 10 stages of burnout, and this is part 3. So we're going through stages 7 through 10 today. And so I will link somewhere up top videos 1 and 2, or parts 1 and 2, so you can check those out if you missed those. So, these 10 stages of burnout really dovetail beautifully with the heroine's journey that was created by Maureen Murdoch. And so in those previous videos, I talk a lot more about that. And so the heroine's journey is based on the hero's journey created by Joseph Campbell. So if you've ever watched Star Wars or Clash of the Titans or any of those movies, you know the hero's journey. He goes on a quest of some kind. He's looking for something, and he encounters trials, and he encounters monsters and ogres, and he goes through these ups and downs to get that thing that he's ultimately after. And then he makes his way home, having, he got the prize, he won the prize. And the path for the heroine's journey, or for women, is really about the journey to wholeness. And this is really important when we talk about burnout, because this is ultimately what we're after. And when you're a woman, particularly a woman in leadership, you've gone through that cycle where you've worked really hard, you got the things that you thought that you wanted, and then it turned out not to be what you wanted. And so when you get to that stage of burnout, what ends up happening is you realize all the things that you hadn't given yourself. So maybe you gave too much, or you forgot the things that you really wanted or needed for yourself, or there are parts of yourself that you left behind. And so you find yourself in this situation where you're burned out. And I will say, burnout does not happen in a vacuum, so you are not solely responsible for it. So much of where you work and the people you work with have a huge impact on burnout. But this specifically, we're just talking through that psycho-spiritual journey through burnout, and how you come back to that wholeness, that integration of your ambition and being able to enjoy your life. So that's what we're talking about. But I have other videos on my channel where I dive more into the details of the other institutions and things like that do exacerbate burnout. But that's not what we're talking about today. So I want to go into step 7, and I do have some notes, so I'm going to refer back to them. And so step 7 is yearning to reconnect with the feminine. And so this is the need to reconnect and heal the broken connection with the feminine. So when you're recovering from burnout, this is really the time. So you've had that descent, you've had that dark night of the soul, where you're maybe you've had an illness of some kind, or something has reached a fever pitch at work. It's like that pinnacle thing that's happened that's made you know that you're burned out and you need to do something else. That's already happened. And so once that's happened and you start to make your way out of that process, and that time can take months, it could take years for some, it could just take a few weeks, it just depends. But once you make your way through that process, the next stage is this needing to reconnect to the feminine. And so this is when you tapping into your inner child. Also, this is when you reclaim your wisdom. You reclaim your wisdom, you tap into your creativity, and you tap into your intuition. Now, these are things that you've probably tapped into over your lifetime, but they become so much stronger when you start to reconnect to the feminine and this part of yourself. So you've now gone through, like I said, this really intense burnout period, and now you're starting to reconnect the parts of yourself that you left behind, the parts of yourself that you forgot about. This is the time that you want to start reconnecting to that part. And so you might find yourself having a lot of reminders of the things that you used to love to do. So one of the things for me that I connected with was painting. Now, I'm not an artist by any means, but I do like playing in paint. So I think I like playing in paint more than actually painting things. It's just something that I'm into. And that is something that I really tapped into when I was recovering from burnout. And it's so interesting because it just let me tap into another side of my brain. And I wasn't so worried all the time. Like it just was a freedom that I got from painting, and I still do it now. So that's one of the things that I did. So what are some of those things for you? What is that creativity that maybe you haven't tapped into for a while because you've been so busy focused on work all the time or focused on other people? So what are some of those things that you truly enjoy that bring out your creativity? Or what is your inner wisdom telling you? That's another good question to ask yourself. Okay, step 8 is healing the mother-daughter split. So this is really about reconnecting to your roots and finding your strength. And so I think for a lot of women, we have anchors within our families and the women in our families. And so that's really a good place to tap into. So when you're healing that mother-daughter split, it really is about the nature of the mother. And when we typically think about that archetypal image of mother, regardless of what your mother was like, we think about, nurturing energy a lot of the time. And so nurturing energy, your ability to be taken care of, all of that. Because before, when you were dealing with burnout, you were probably so busy taking care of other people. And when you get to this stage, it's like, oh yeah, I need to be taken care of. I need to be tended to. I need to be loved in a certain way. That's what comes up in this stage. And also, it's when you start to reclaim traits that you thought were weaknesses. So one trait often for a lot of women leaders is vulnerability. I actually posted something on LinkedIn recently about, my experience with vulnerability and how it took me being vulnerable to be able to bounce back and recover from burnout, because I had to tap into someone who worked in HR at my last job and a friend. I had to be very upfront and honest about what I was dealing with so that I could get the help that I needed. And so when you start to heal that rift of the mother-daughter split, this is what happens in that phase. You start to really tap into those things, and you start tapping into and reclaiming those things. And I think vulnerability is one of those big ones. Okay, step 9, healing the wounded masculine. So this means healing and reconnecting to the masculine within you in new ways. So when I talk about the masculine, what I mean are those traits of, that go, 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 sort of the energy to push and do and accomplish and achieve. This is really seeing the masculine in a new way, and not just your own internal masculine energy, because we all have masculine and feminine energy inside of us, but also the way you see masculinity, the way you see men. It starts to come into clearer focus and you see it differently. So whatever your thoughts and beliefs were about masculinity, about men, about this masculine energy, it starts to repair itself in this process, because now you've seen it all. You've gone through that process. You know what that masculine energy is like within you, and now you're building another relationship to it. So your drive, your ambition, that sort of linear thinking, all of that is very masculine nature. And those are good traits. There's nothing wrong with those traits, but you begin to create a different relationship to it. And I think that's really what's important here. What else did I want to say about healing the wounded masculine? This involves parts of yourself that you've ignored, and accepting the fact that you have limits. So I think a lot of times as women leaders, it can be hard to understand that, yes, you do have limits. Sometimes you just can't do it all. You do have to say no, and that's okay. It's okay to have limits. It's okay to say, you know what, not right now. And so that's what happens in this stage 9. And again, just tapping into that and healing that relationship to the masculine. And lastly, step 10 is the integration of the feminine and the masculine, or the integration of being and doing. And this is where you remember who you are. You remember who you are and you accept yourself as you are. And so once you've come through all of the craziness and the chaos of burnout, this is ultimately where you get to. It's equanimity, it's reconnecting to joy. It's where you're able to go back out into the world. So whether that means going back to work, whether that means starting a business, whether that means carving out a new career for yourself, whether it means a pivot in the current career that you have, that's where you end up. And you get to this place where you start to realize what your values are and you want to live out those values. So I know for me, when I reached this stage, it was really important for me to, grow my business and realize that's really where I wanted to focus in terms of work. And I also think that you start to realize what's important to you. That's another thing that happens in this stage is, for some women, you realize that maybe your ambition has changed. And so for some, that can be you just want a different pace of life. For some, that can be spending more time with family. For some, it could be, actually, I want to go further, but I want to do it differently. Because I think what's really important also when you are recovering from burnout is to not go back the same way that you came. And by that, I mean, once you've recovered, don't allow yourself to go back and do the same things that you were doing before the burnout happened. So if you were someone who didn't have good boundaries at work, if you were someone that just took on all these extra responsibilities and didn't ask for help, now you know better. So now you are in a place where you can take all the lessons that you've learned and you carry them with you so you don't go down the same path. And if you do start to go down the same path, one of the things that you'll discover is you can say, I recognize this. I know this and I don't want to go any further. I need to rest. I need to take a break. I need to disconnect. I need to rest. I need to relax. Or maybe I need to have a difficult conversation. Or maybe I need to say no to a project. Whatever it is, these lessons that you've been learning over these past 10 stages, they all culminate in this stage 10. And so, this stages of burnout and recovery, it's not a linear process. And so some of these things can take longer than others, and you might find yourself going back and forth for a while, but ultimately you want to hold on to these lessons. When you've gone through burnout, when you've had that experience, you know how difficult it was or how it is for you. And when you come out of it, you definitely don't want to forget. So again, it's realizing who you are, those values that you hold, and how it is you want to live your life now. And again, that integration of your ambition and your drive with being able to just be and enjoy your life. So I hope this video was helpful for you. So let me know in the comments, did any of these stages resonate with you? Have you found yourself coming out of burnout? Or does any of this sound like, oh man, I can't wait to get there? Whatever it is, I would love to hear from you about your experience. So please leave a comment in the comments and let me know. And if this resonates with you, I just love to connect. And if you find yourself struggling with burnout and this is something that you need more support with, I want to encourage you to get my free guide, The 5 Mistakes That Mission-Driven Leaders Make That Lead to Burnout and How to Avoid Them. I will put the link below this video so you certainly can pick it up there. And in that guide, you'll also learn more about how you and I can connect and how I can support you and work with you if that's something that you desire. So that's all for today. Take good care of yourself, and I'll talk to you soon.